I guess this, I don't know, it's going to a long thing here, but wasn't really planning on it, but I could. Anyway, this guy's name was Franklin Jones. He wrote a book called The Knee of Listening, and he talked about this whole process, the myth of Narcissus. Narcissus was this god, and he became infatuated with himself. He was sort of cursed by the gods that he couldn't love anybody except himself. And he looks into a pool of water one day, sees his own reflection, and falls in love with himself. And he's just enamored with himself. And that's an image for us. This mirror of our mind, we've become enamored. We've fallen in love with ourself, thinking it's what we see, just not understanding the nature of what's going on and being deceived. And we're constantly entertaining this self we love, and we constantly, so what, Franklin Jones, he's not different. He was kind of an Advaita Vedanta, he was kind of a Ramana Maharshi, but he put a little spin on it and saying, who am I? As the Buddhists do, as the Nyingmas do. When you get really down into it, who am I? Who is having that thought? Who is having that desire? Once you look into that who, it's going to dissolve, And if you don't look into that who, it ain't ever going to dissolve. But the way Franklin Jones at the time, later his name became Adi Da Samraj. And he was very powerful, very, very powerful, but he kind of went off the rails with alcohol and sex, possibly, who knows. But things probably didn't go that well toward the end. But at one time, he was one of the great teachers around, Hindu teachers. I don't know, I wasn't there, but I have friends over there. They say, don't diss the Da. He was the real deal at one time. Anyway, his way of saying it was avoiding relationship. It's like you couldn't let your mind move. I mean, I'm doing what he said from the book, and if your mind moved, that was avoiding relationship. The only thing was not avoiding relationship is if you were just there doing nothing. You could do things, but you really couldn't engage that much. I mean, and what was the point of doing anything, I go to a party and I just sit there and my mind wouldn't move, It was kind of stupid, I don't know. But it was powerful, I mean. And that's what we're trying to do in Dzogchen, really. It's just another way of saying it. Anytime you get caught up in something, caught up in two thoughts, that's avoiding relationship. That's avoiding the Great Eastern Sun, your true nature. That's not resting your mind in the nature of your mind. That's something else, which he called avoiding relationship. But whatever. I don't know why I got into all that, but anyway. There's commitment. I discovered commitment at that time. I lost it. But I had commitment for a time there. I would never let my mind move. I didn't understand how to work with it. I was killing a lot of creativity, and everybody thought I was nuts. And I could have been a little nuts, but I had commitment, man. I never let my mind move, ever, ever, ever. Obviously I was young, but I was meditating a lot. It was powerful. It was so powerful. But that's the kind of, you just make a decision that the only thing there is really is rest your mind in the nature of your mind. Anything else is foolishness. And I'm committed to this, 100%. I have nothing else on my plate, man. Nothing else. I'm going to take care of Earth. Earth is calling to be taken care of. But I don't mean I have to let my mind go somewhere. There was this great teacher, I can't remember his name, but Tulku Ugin writes about him. Tulku Ugin's got a great memoir. blazing splendor. I think it's in there maybe, but somewhere they got a publishing house, Ranjung Yeshi, and every book in that publishing house is beyond belief. They got a trilogy, Dzogchen trilogy, Dzogchen Primer, Dzogchen Essentials, Quintessential Dzogchen. Mind blowing, beyond belief. I read that book, which is 3 books. I read those 3 books. And I immediately read those 3 books. It was like discovering that commitment, reading those books. And he was all just saying a lot of the same things over and over, but pointing out the nature of mind in a way. Explaining how it's simple as hell. Wasn't anything to it. Simple. This is it. There's nothing else to do. Anything else is crazy. Anything else is, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that, but if you just do this, you're happy. So why not do it? Do you make a commitment? Which means you ain't gonna do anything except, I was telling this story. So this great Dzogchen teacher, he didn't run at the job, and they put him in charge of the monastery. There's anybody else is gonna be corrupt, or anybody else is gonna be. But him, and he had to work all the time. He had to work like all the time. And one day he looks over his assistant and he says, "No matter what I do, I'm never separate from the nature of my mind." And he's meaning 24/7. He's meaning when he goes to sleep at night, he never goes into a blank space or anything like that. He never separated from the nature of his mind 24/7. And there's nothing they can do. They can run in there with 20 Indians, each having the worst problem you ever imagined, and he could not be separate from the nature of his mind. He had reached this 3rd stage. He had exhausted the possibility that he could be separate from the nature of his mind. He could be separated and have 2 thoughts strung together. It's impossible. Or have outer circumstances, cause him to lose this relationship with his resting his mind, the nature of his mind. Or another way they say it is the union of appearance and emptiness suffused with knowing. There's 2 kinds of beings in this world, 2 kinds of experiences of this world. There are ordinary beings and there are Buddhas. And they're really very close. It's damned amazing how there's just a hair's tip of difference between the 2. Here's the difference. The experience of the ordinary person is the union of appearance and emptiness suffused with ignorance. So you and my experience is, we experience emptiness totally, completely. We experience appearance totally and completely. And they are a union. They are for us a union. Except there's just this quality of ignorance. There's just this quality of our necks being frozen. And we don't know anything. Don't know nothing in a subtle way about what's going on. And there are Buddhas. The experience of these Buddhas is this: the union of appearance and emptiness suffused with knowing. For them, they experience completely appearance, emptiness. They are a union, And they have this knowing quality about the whole thing, like our great teacher who is never separate from the nature of his mind. He cannot be separated from that knowing quality that it's the union of appearance and emptiness going on. I don't understand. Talking about appearance is difficult for me because I don't understand anything. Talk about emptiness. It's one thing to talk about. It's another thing, for anybody else to understand anything. Emptiness is real hard to understand. I think there's a way they talk about it in the Cognitive school. First you train in the Hinayana. And what you're doing is trying to discover emptiness of self. For the ordinary person, this is difficult. But for the person who works on it, it's not that hard to start figuring out there's holes in the self. This self, just say, who am I to yourself for about 2 days, and you got nothing. You experience emptiness of self. So it's possible through meditation, through studying the Hinayana teachings of Buddha. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about there's emptiness of self, and then it's not that you can get, emptiness of self. A lot of people have had a profound understanding of emptiness of self. Then we kind of move into the Mahayana, and they begin to talk about how it's not just this that's empty, it's that also is empty. And if you study it hard, and in the Hinayana you get all kind of logics about why nothing is real, Nothing has a self. Everything is impermanent. Everything is always changing. Everything's driven by karma, but that's that's appearance and emptiness. That's the two together, relative and the absolute. We got this relative world, we got this absolute world. They're a union. So you study the Hinayana good. You learn all these logics of why there is no self, there is no other. You study the Mahayana, and they really get into that. That is empty out there. And you study your brains out, and you work on this stuff, and it is not a terrible leap that you could achieve what is called 1.5-fold emptiness, which means you have the whole ball of wax, emptiness of self. You don't believe in yourself, really. And you are halfway there, the emptiness of other. You don't believe in the emptiness of other, but the Chinese throw you in prison and start gnawing on your leg, maybe you don't really have that second. You don't have that twofold emptiness quite, You could be in danger of losing your bodhicitta at that point. Or another example, maybe, if you did understand twofold emptiness, if you were Milarepa, or not that you would, but you can turn around and stick your hand through the rock wall behind you because it's empty. It's not a real thing. But it's hard to gain twofold emptiness where you're able to do things like that. So twofold emptiness is difficult, which is kind of the whole reason for the Vajrayana in a way. It was because it's so hard. In the Hinayana Mahayana, all the teachings are perfected. There's nothing else to say about the nature of reality that hadn't been